Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to another elf video. Today I'm going to show you everything that our elves got up to last year, and I'm not only going to show you last year, I'm going to show you everything they've done for the past few years. So in this video there are over 100 things that our elves have actually done to surprise our kids. Some of them are so funny. I really think that you will like them. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, give this video a big like, and if you're new around here, I would love you to subscribe for more content like this. And with all that said, let's get straight into what our elves have been up to. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to show you guys that our elves did was one morning they came with a sign that said McElves that looked just like the McDonald's sign, and it also had a note that said, "Good morning, anyone fancy a McElves burger?" And then there were these really tiny gummy burgers for each of the children, and they were super excited to eat them. And on another morning, we came downstairs to find this. I don't know what the elf was doing with the whisk, but he got all tangled up within it. And then he had a sign next to him that said, "I want to whisk you a Merry Christmas." We also came down one morning to the elves holding a sign that said, "There are worms in the apples." And then when we looked closely at the apples, they weren't actually worms, they were gummy worms. So of course, the kids were super excited to have a couple. Then one day we found the elves with a sign that said, "Let's do a science experiment." And next to them was a brand new bottle of Diet Coke and some Mentos as well. So we took this out into the garden. If you put Mentos into Diet Coke, it will do a big explosion. You have to put as many as you possibly can, like maybe 10 at once, and just stand back and see what happens. We also found our elves one day surrounded by our Croc shoes, and they were sat with a sign that said, "Please don't feed the Crocs," and they had some crisps with them as well. And I have seen other elves do this in the bathtub, so they basically fill up the bath a little bit, have the Crocs in there, and they have a sign that says, "Beware of the Crocs," which obviously aren't crocodiles, they're just Crocs. And then we also found them one day in the toilet with the toilet paper, but instead of toilet paper, they had replaced it with wrapping paper, and they had a sign that said, "Just roll with it." I also really love this next one. One day we found the elves in the kitchen with a sign that said, "We made a sponge cake for you." But the sponge cake was literally a sponge with some sprinkles on top, and the kids thought that this was really, really silly. And I think this next one might just be one of my favorites. I just think it is so cute. We came down to the elves holding a sign that said, "Let's play Hungry Hippos." But of course, it wasn't actually the Hungry Hippos game. They were those like hippo treats and Smarties in front of them. So again, the kids were super excited to have this, and they thought that it was really, really funny. And I don't actually know if the elves know what a gingerbread house is, because again, one day in the kitchen, they made this, which is actually just bread with some ginger in the middle of it. But they had a sign that said, "Do you like our gingerbread house?" And one day we saw that they were actually in elf jail. They must have been really, really naughty the day before, because it came down and they were in like a little cardboard box that had bars on it, but the bars were actually candy canes, and there was a sign that said elf jail on it. And this next one was really cool. One evening, they built a climbing wall on our fridge with Lego. They must have taped the Lego to the fridge. He was hanging by a ribbon and climbing up all of the Legos. And our boys love Domino's pizza. We get it once in a while as a treat. And one day we came downstairs and the elves had a chopping board out with a flatbread on it and actual Domino's. So I don't know if they actually understand what Domino's pizza is, but it was really funny. And how cute is this next one? They made a choir out of the fruit in our fruit bowl. So all of the bananas and the oranges had little singing faces drawn onto them on the front, and then the elves were sat holding a song sheet. And I don't exactly know how, because it must have been a little bit tricky to get inside the balloon. But one day our elf was actually in a balloon and had written on the front, "Help, I am in here." And this next one is a little bit gross, but my kids thought that it was so hilarious. One day we saw the elf sat on the toilet roll and there was what looked like poo, or I don't know if it was Nutella or something like that, all down the toilet roll, and there was a sign that said "Poopsie." And this next one was really exciting. One day they had a muffin tin that said, "Elf's poop taste testing. Do you want to try?" And then there were all different types of poops. There were Elsa poops, which looked like jelly beans, reindeer poop, which was raisins, Pikachu poop, again jelly beans. There was Barbie poop, unicorn poop, which looked like sprinkles, and Grinch poop as well. And this night our elf must have been busy because it looked like he had actually cut out of maybe like colored paper little elf outfits for the kids' photo to wear. So we came down and the kids looked just like the elf in the photo. And we also found our elf with an empty Coke can and a straw into its mouth, and he was sat on a clear cup, and there was actually cola bottles inside the clear cup. So it looked like the elf had drunk the Coca-Cola and actually pooped out the cola bottles. I mean, our elf thinks toilet humor is really funny, but that's probably because our kids do as well. And I really love this next one. Our elves made our bathroom door into what looks like a snowman. So there was a big red scarf around the door, and then it had like charcoal eyes, a carrot nose, a little mouth, and even buttons as well. And they were sat in the scarf, and it was just really, really cute. And we thought that this one was really funny. One day we found our elves face down in the corner of our couch, and it looks like they found all of this stuff in our couch, including some change, some pencils, Nerf bullets, Legos, like a screwdriver, and just loads and loads of things. And we also found them in the playroom one day like this, and there was a sign that said, "Morning, maybe don't shake this snow globe," but it actually wasn't a snow globe. They'd taken one of my vases and then filled it with the things that are in the kids' bean bags, but obviously it could look like snow. But yeah, they said don't shake it because obviously it would have gone everywhere. One day they also set up a game for us. So we came down, we saw loads of red cups everywhere, and they had a sign that said, "Let's play hide and seek. Can you find the candy?" There are 3 to find, so obviously 1 for each child. So then the kids had to look under all of the red cups and see if they could actually find the candy. And the kids loved that game so much that they did another one, which was actually to find 8 gold coins in the room. So they had a sign that said, "Can you find them?" Showed what they looked like, and then again the kids had to run around the room and try and find all 8. And this next one was brilliant. We have a robot vacuum that runs around and vacuums, but one day the elves actually turned it into a reindeer with a little bow and some brown antlers as well, and they were sat on top of it. This next one was brilliant. One day we came down to a Jenga tower made out of Kit Kats, and there was a sign that said, "Kit Kat Jenga all the way." And I don't know who loved this one more, my husband or the kids. They were super excited to eat some of these for pudding. This one was also so good. One day we came down and the elf was sat on a little pile of peas, and he had written in peas, "Oops, I peed myself," spelled obviously like pee. So yeah, we just thought that this was hilarious. This next one must have taken the elves some time, but it was really, really brilliant, and the kids couldn't believe it. So the elves looked like they'd blown up loads of Christmas colored balloons and filled our shower with them. They were sat at the top on the shower head, and there was just so many balloons in the stall itself. And this next one was really cute. Our kids have those like finger skateboards, and they love playing with them. So one day we came down to find our elf on top of the paper towel, and it actually had written on it, "This is how I roll," and he was holding their little mini skateboard. And one day we came downstairs to find our elf in the bathroom with a sign that said, "I borrowed your butt brush. I hope you don't mind." And he was sat on one of the boys' toothbrushes. So he obviously thinks that a toothbrush is a butt brush. We also found one of our elves one day in Jackson's bedroom, and he had actually made a tower out of some of his favorite books like Dogman, Chores, and some David Walliams books. And then he was on the top reading a book as well. Okay, so on December 1st, which is the day that our elves came back, this is what the kids were faced with. So this is Caleb's bedroom. And as you can see, they actually gift wrapped the doorway to the bedroom, and they were also holding a note that said, "You're trapped, can you break out?" So the kids actually had to kind of like ninja kick through the gift wrap, and obviously it was really, really exciting for them. And this next one I found so funny. So on this day, the kids took ages to find the elves, and then they finally found them in our utility room, sat on the ironing board with our iron, and they had a sign that said, "We ironed your crisps for you." So in the kids' lunchboxes, they really like to have the crinkle crisps, which are on the left there. So they had some of those, and then they also had straight ones where they had actually ironed the crisps. So the kids thought this was brilliant. And then the next day, we found the elf in the boys' bathroom with a sign that said "Gone fishing." So it looked like he was actually fishing for something gross. On closer inspection, we actually think he was fishing for dog food, but trying to trick us. And one morning we came downstairs, and it was super exciting because we found the elves in the kitchen making us breakfast. They were making eggs, but not just any eggs. They were making Haribo eggs. So as you can imagine, the kids loved having a few. And on another day, we came down to find our elf in our KitchenAid in the pantry, and he had a sign that said "Bake with me" and a brownie kit to make chocolate Christmas tree brownies. So that was really nice because it was actually on the weekend, so we could all make them together. And once they left a game for us, which was pin the nose on the Rudolph. So we came downstairs and they'd actually printed off a picture of Rudolph missing his red nose. And then there were some red pom-poms, which looked like they were from our craft basket. And they also had like a blindfold on one of the elves. So we had to blindfold the boys, and then they had to try and pin the nose on the Rudolph, which was so much fun. And once we found that our elf had made crisps out of a potato, so it looked like he'd taken a potato from the fridge, put it on the grater, and there was like a sad face on the potato, and then underneath it there were actually crisps coming out, which was so funny. And one morning we found a wanted poster on our fridge which said "Wanted Snowman Nose Thief," and there was a picture of our elf with all of the carrots. And then when we opened up the fridge, sure enough, he was there trying to steal the snowman noses. And most years our naughty elf does this and the kids think it's hilarious. So we found him stood next to a glass, and it looked like he was weeing into it, but he had a sign that said "Fresh apple juice," but I wouldn't trust that it is. The elves also left us some paper and a pen and said, "Letters to Santa, write your letters here." And this was great because I'm always trying to encourage the kids to finalize their Christmas lists and letters to Santa so that we can send it off. But when the elves said it, they did it. Our elves also tried to make a snowman for the kids indoors once, but of course it melted. So we found a bowl of water and a carrot, which was his nose, and then some buttons as well in the water. And he'd written a sign saying, "I built you a snowman," but it melted. And one day we found our elf doing the limbo. He had about 5 candy canes. He'd made a limbo bar and it was sticking out of slime, and he was actually doing the limbo, which was really funny. And we also found the elf one morning with the milk out of the fridge, and it looked like the milk had an angry face drawn on it, and he had a sign that said, "Uh-oh, the milk has turned bad." And on another morning, we came down to find the elf was in a Pringle can, and he had a sign where he'd actually rewritten the lyrics to Jingle Bells. So he'd written, "Pringle bells, your poo smells."
And on another day, the kids were searching for ages, and then we finally found the elf in the fridge on the shelf, and he actually had a little scarf on, and it looked like he also was wrapped up trying to keep warm. And a bit like the potato grating one that we saw earlier, one day the elf was actually grating a carrot. The carrot looked really sad, and he had a sign that said, "Snowman Nose Rejector." So I guess this carrot wasn't good enough to be a snowman nose, and it was being grated. And halfway to Christmas, we found the elves with a sign that said, "Halfway there, help yourself." And they'd actually left the kids some chocolate coins. So it was really nice for them to have a little treat. And on another day, they had made us breakfast again. So they had little Haribo eggs on some tiny bits of toast. And it also had a little glass of milk, which looks like it was in a tiny little cup. And on a particularly naughty day, we found that the elves had actually decorated our tree with the kids' pants and toilet roll as well. This is one that they seem to love because they do this almost every year.
So our elves came back on December the 1st, and on that day they actually wrote out in Skittles, "We're back." The boys were so excited to find this message left for them and that they had written this out. It was really brightly coloured, and they also got to eat a few of the Skittles. And what about this? We found our elves wearing a tiny little elf-sized COVID-19 mask. He was also sitting in a hammock, which was a mask, and another elf had some hand sanitizer. And one morning we came down to find that our elves were trying to roast marshmallows, and they left us the ingredients to make s'mores. So we had digestive biscuits, we had chocolate, the marshmallows themselves, and they actually had a little sign that said, "Let's make s'mores." Then on another day, we actually came downstairs to find that our elf was stuck in the TV. It said, "I hit the wrong button on the remote. How do I get out of here?" We don't know how he got in there, but we managed to get him out. And the next day, he actually did this to one of our family portraits, put little red noses onto everyone's face, and he also had a red nose on as well. And what about this? Once we found our elves having what looked to be a full-on sports day with some of the toys. They were doing sack races, they had bean bags to play beanbag toss, and even what looked like little hula hoops. And we also found our elves once working out and lifting weights, but the weights that they were lifting were actually marshmallows on a toothpick. And one day we came downstairs to find that they wanted to play elf bingo. They had printed out bingo sheets. There was even instructions on how to play and chocolate coins to use as markers. So I will link this game down below because I actually found a printable if anyone else wants to play elf bingo. And on another day, we found that our elf had actually made a little swing out of a toilet paper roll and some string. And sadly, one day our elf actually got unwell and got reindeer flu. So we saw him one day with a little blanket on, some little tissues and some reindeer flu pills for his medicine. So we were worried that he wasn't going to move for a few days, but luckily he was okay. Then this was probably our kids' favorite one. This is so cool. We found the elves with a sign one day that said, "Want to see a rainbow? Just add hot water." Obviously, they needed mummy or daddy to help them pour in the hot water to this circle of Skittles. But when we did pour in the hot water, we got to watch a rainbow form in the bowl. This was so cool to watch, really exciting as well. And the next one was really cool. We found them with a sign one day that said, "Let's do a trick, sprinkle some magic elf dust and let me do my magic." So the kids sprinkled some of those little sprinkles onto the eggs, and then we waited to see what would happen. And then the next morning when we came down, they had magically turned into Kinder Egg surprises, and they had a little sign that said "Ta-da!" and the kids were thrilled with this. Then on another day, we found the elf playing the boys' favorite game, The Floor is Lava. He was up on a window to avoid the floor. We got our kids playing it as well. And our elf was actually so naughty one day, we found him with nail polish and a sign that said, "I left your dad a funny treat. Go find him now and look at his feet." And we found that the elf had actually painted Daddy's toenails. So then the day after that, we actually found our elf in timeout. He had built a little Lego chair, was facing the corner, and had a little sign that said timeout for being so very cheeky. And one day we also found all of our elves tangled up in some floss, and they had a sign that said, "Is this how you do the floss?" We thought this was really funny because our boys love to dance the floss, and obviously this is not how you do it. And on another day, it took us ages to find our elves, but when we did, we found they were treating our tumble dryer like a roller coaster. They were sat on the side with their hands in the air, so we think that they were probably going round and round all night. And on another day, we actually found them having a popcorn party in our microwave. There was popcorn everywhere. There was a little sign that said popcorn party, and they were just sat in the middle of all of it. And again, there was another day when they were very hard to find, but when we did finally find them in the fridge, we found that our elf had glued little googly eyes to some fruit, some milk, some Tupperware, and some sauces. And we thought that this was hilarious. And on a Tuesday, we came down to find them with a sign that said it's Taco Tuesday, and two of the elves had been rolled up in a taco shell or a wrap, and they'd cut out little holes for their faces. Then on another day, we actually found them making breakfast for the kids, but it really wasn't the kind of breakfast that we would like them to have. It was sweets and candy and marshmallows, and they were sat on the stove stirring it all. And speaking of breakfast, we also found them with a Lucky Charms box, but they had taken out the leprechaun's head and actually put an elf through the box. And I've also seen elves do this with the Rice Krispie boxes as well. And once they had a go at even making a packed lunch, they had a little sign that said, "I packed your lunch, I hope you like it," but it was very random. There was Tabasco sauce, a can of beans, some treats, and a jar of jam as well. Okay, so on one of the days we came downstairs and found our elves all lined up with a sign that said, "We froze the keys, I guess you'll have to stay home today." And luckily we didn't have any plans that day because the keys were frozen solid next to them. The kids thought that this was so funny, and we ended up just staying home, playing some games and doing some Christmas things because we couldn't really leave the house that day. On another morning, we came downstairs to find that the elves were holding a hairdryer, and they had a sign that said, "Do you want to melt a snowman?" And in a frying pan next to them, it looked like they had melted a snowman. There was like googly eyes, a little carrot nose, little chocolate chip buttons, even a little scarf as well. And yeah, he had just been completely melted by the elves, and the kids again thought this was hilarious. And they must have a thing about snowmans because on another morning we came downstairs to find that the elves were holding onto Jackson's stuffed Olaf toy, and they were actually grating him. There was a sign that said, "Santa says be grateful." So they were holding onto him, he was on the grater, and what was actually coming out was mini marshmallows. So the kids ate some of these, they were super excited, and they thought that it was pretty cool that the elves had actually got Olaf. And I think this has to be my favorite thing that the elves have ever done. One morning we found a couple of the elves with a sign that said, "We've made Daddy one of us, go and find him." Then the kids ran in to find Daddy, and he was in fact an elf. They've done this before where they've been holding nail polish and they've said, "Go and look at Daddy's toes," and they've actually painted his toes. So I guess this time they turned him into an actual elf. And one morning we came downstairs to find a drawing station had been set up at the dining table by the elves. They were holding a sign that said, "Santa likes pictures, can you draw one for him?" So they'd set out some little like coloring pens and some paper as well, and the kids could get creative, draw a festive picture for him that I guess the elves could then take away that night to show Santa. This was a great little activity for the kids to do, and they were really excited when they were actually doing their drawings.
And one day the elves did something which was truly in the spirit of Christmas and giving. We came downstairs to find that the elves had a basket and a sign on it that said, Christmas is all about giving. Can you donate 5 things to charity? This could either be toys that they no longer play with, or maybe clothes that they've grown out of or no longer wear. But it was great to see the kids running around, finding things that maybe they don't play with anymore and that they could actually get rid of, and we could donate to the charity shop so that hopefully someone could actually buy that for Christmas for someone else. So yeah, we really liked this one, and the kids really got into it as well. And something that I think the kids will probably remember forever and ever is when we came downstairs to find an elf in a jar with a sign that said, do not open, I have farted in here. And of course the kids wanted to open it, and it smelled disgusting. I don't know if they sprayed that fart spray in there or if he had actually farted, but it absolutely stunk, and the kids thought it was the funniest thing ever. And this is another one which was right up their street. One day we came down to the kitchen, saw 2 elves with a glass, and they were almost sitting on it like a toilet, and then another elf had a sign that said lemonade for sale, £1. So it looked like they'd actually weed in the glass. Kids thought this was pretty funny, but I think it was actually maybe apple juice. I think they were just joking, but the kids liked it. On another day, I mean, you can tell they know the boys' sense of humor. On another day, we came downstairs. There was a whoopee cushion on the seat, and it said, good morning. I bet you can't sit here without blowing off. So, of course, the kids wanted to sit there, wanted to make the whoopee cushion noise and all of that. And sticking with that naughty theme, they're actually quite cheeky, aren't they? One day, we came downstairs to find an elf had actually drawn on a picture of Jackson. He drew hair, glasses, mustache, a beard as well. But I think he actually did it with a, what's it called? A whiteboard marker, not that Sharpie, because it did wipe straight off again. So yeah, the kids thought that that was pretty funny. And I think in the past, they've even done this to like family photos of us and put glasses on all of our faces. And once the elves actually set up a post-it note game for the kids. So one morning we came downstairs to find post-it notes all over the kitchen, and the elves had a sign that said, boys, who can grab the most post-it notes in 30 seconds? And then each post-it note color had a name on it. So then the kids pretty much just had to run around, grab as many as they possibly could in 30 seconds, and then we could count up at the end who'd actually got the most. But the kids thought that this was really fun, and then yeah, they were running around like crazy. And something else that the elves did one day that the kids were so excited about was we came down to find some eggs in a bowl and a sign that said, sprinkle the eggs with our magic dust and see what happens when you get home from school. So there was a bowl next to the eggs with this magic dust in it. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I think it could probably be like anything in there. The kids sprinkled the eggs, and then when they got home from school, they found that they'd actually turned into Kinder eggs. This was so exciting for the kids, and yeah, they ate them and they loved it. Something that I don't think the elves loved was one day we came down to find them in the dog cupboard, so where we keep all the dog food, and they actually had a dog bowl out with dog biscuits in it, and they'd put up a little sign that said worst cookies ever. So I guess they had eaten them and realized that they were actually dog cookies, and the kids thought that this was pretty hilarious as well. They were laughing about it, and I doubt the elves will try that again. And something else that they did that was really cute was one day we came down to find them laying down on a plate, and they actually were using toast as a blanket. They even had a sign up that said, we were cold, but now we're toasty, and they were actually next to the toaster. So I'm guessing they put some bread in, made some toast, and thought that would make them nice and warm. And you know, in the movie Elf, when he says that syrup is one of the main food groups for elves, I guess that it is, because one day we found them with a sign saying, do you want pancakes with maple syrup? Hold the pancakes. And they were leaning against the maple syrup, and they were holding these like Christmassy straws as well. So I think they were pretty much just drinking the syrup straight out of the thing. So we actually had pancakes that morning. And on another day, we came down to find that the PS4 controllers had been gift wrapped by the elves, and they had a sign that said, the PS4 is banned today, let's go outside. So I guess they didn't want them gaming that day. So we went out for a long dog walk, got some fresh air, just got off the screens. So yeah, that was quite a cute idea from the elves to kind of wrap them up for a day so that we couldn't actually use them. And then on another day, I couldn't believe we came downstairs and found that the elves had decorated our Christmas tree with pants. They'd stolen some of the kids' pants and my underwear as well, hung it on the Christmas tree, and they've done something similar to this in the past. Once they wrapped our whole tree up in toilet paper like it was decoration. So the kids again thought that this was pretty hilarious that they were decorating our tree with underwear. And once they set up a game that the kids really loved, we found them with a sign that said, "Do you like candy canes? We've hidden 6 more." So they were holding 3 and then we had to go and find the other 6, and they were in various different places. One was hanging from a kitchen handle, one was in a decoration, but they had loads of fun like trying to find them all. And on another night, we couldn't believe the elves had actually decorated the boys' rooms with toilet roll while they were sleeping. So when they woke up, they saw all this toilet roll around their whole room, from the lampshades, from the bed to the chair. It was everywhere. They were so cheeky. They were sat holding one of the toilet rolls, but the kids couldn't believe they had done this while they were actually asleep. On another day, we found them at the toilet and it had been completely gift wrapped by the elves. They were sitting on it. They had sellotape, they had the scissors, ribbon, and the roll of paper as well. So it was definitely them, and it was so funny to see. And in our old house, they actually made a zip line from one of our frames to the Christmas tree itself, and they were on the zip line with candy canes, which was really cool. And we also found them once in the kitchen, and they'd made a snowman out of toilet roll, and it said, "Do you want to build a snowman?" So it had eyes and a little carrot nose and everything. And another one the kids just absolutely loved was we found an elf in our Nutella eating it. He's got it all around his mouth, and he'd actually written the word poo on our kitchen surface. So yeah, that is all the things that the elves did. On the first day that the elf visited us, he was sliding down our banister in a little sleigh that it looks like he made out of an old ribbon box, some string, and candy canes. On the next day, we found 2 of our cheeky elves with a black marker and a bunch of bananas, and they had drawn little minions onto our bananas, and the boys thought this was the best thing ever, and they really wanted to take one of the bananas to school for a snack. One morning, we woke up to 2 of our elves having a snowball fight on our kitchen counter. They had built little walls of marshmallows to protect them, and they were throwing small marshmallows at each other, and the boys loved tasting some of them. And one day we came down to find that the elves had drawn on our eggs, and they had written Merry Xmas on the eggs. So because we had all of these in, I then made eggs for breakfast and French toast as well. And once we found our elf pulling a little Santa sleigh of sweets, which was made out of a stack of chocolate bars, 2 candy canes, and a chocolate Santa. These were all sellotaped together and then had a ribbon on it as well. And we've actually made these before to go alongside Christmas cards. They're really fun and easy to make, and you can get everything to make them just from the supermarket or even Poundland. And he also brought us a really cute little Christmas tree with mini decorations and tinsel. He decorated some of it, and then the boys decorated some of it as well, and he was all wrapped up in the ribbon. Then the next morning, he left a plant pot out that was full of oatmeal, and there was a little sign that said, "Plant 4 chocolate chips and see what happens tomorrow." So the boys planted 4 chocolate chips, and there was also a few extras. And then the next morning, when the boys woke up and came down to the plant pot, they had actually grown into candy canes. So there was then 4 candy canes, and the boys could have one each.
And the naughtiest thing that we found our elf doing was he once got into our Nutella pot, was eating it, and then also wrote poo on our countertops. And you'll notice that our elf must have a thing about toilet roll because he used it quite a few times last year when he surprised us. So one day we actually found him sitting on the Christmas tree and he had added a decoration of toilet roll all around the tree. We also found our elves making snowflakes one day out of paper and using scissors. Luckily, I was there to stop the boys from grabbing the scissors, and then we actually made our own snowflakes as well. And remember I said that our elves seem to have a thing about toilet roll? Well, one morning we came downstairs and found that all of our elves had got into the toilet roll and thrown themselves down the stairs. I don't know if they were doing races or what, but it made a huge mess. The boys also thought that this next one was hilarious. One morning we came downstairs to see that our elf was having a poo in our sink and he was pooing out chocolate drops, which the boys were very happy to try. And this next one is just so adorable. One day we found two of our elves having a spa day. They must have needed to relax because they were wrapped up in our hand cloths. One was laying down with cucumbers on its eyes, and one was even soaking his feet in marshmallows. And almost every year we will find that on one of the days our elf has made snow angels from our flour. He must get into the cupboards, throw this on the floor and do a snow angel. And once our poor elf got trapped by our Lego men. He was on the Lego table and he was trapped under some string which they had just put under each piece of Lego and then attached it to the table. And yeah, they were all around him and they were almost holding him hostage. And our elf must have made friends while he was here in December because one day we found him reading Christmas stories to some of our favorite toys. And this is the cutest thing I've ever seen. One day the elves actually made tiny elf donuts. They were so small, almost the size of Cheerios. They had icing and sprinkles and chocolate on them, and they must have been put into a little matchbox because they were so tiny. And on Christmas Eve, we found our elf in the bathroom. It took ages to find him, but he was there with the toothpaste and he had written "Ho, ho, ho" on our bathroom wall. Sometimes on Christmas Eve, he'll also bring our Christmas Eve box, but it just depends. But that is it for this video. That is everything that our elf got up to.
Right guys, that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below which one was your favorite, and I'll see you in my next one.